Welcome to another episode of Shotgun Wisdom.
Nice to
How was
see
your
you.
weekend?
It was fine. It was good.
Good. Are you excited about this whole going back to school thing?
I'm not going to give an answer. That'll be my answer.
Okay. Well, it was a pleasure having you here again.
Yeah.
Another episode. And is there any major issue you had in mind you want to tackle today?
I want to talk about you and my mom being immigrants, for how being a first-gen American has impacted my perception of the world around me and myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let's dive right in. So let's start with.
Let's start with what are you?
Well,
where do you come from?
Hi, I'm Mark Newman, and that is my crazy daughter, Madison Newman. And she's asking me, who am I? I'm not an alien, but
Where are you?
I am Jamaican born
Uh-huh.
and raised. I came here when I was 17 years old, and
Fire.
I've lived here ever since. I moved to Massachusetts from Jamaica
Oh.
and then to Florida. And I've been in Florida since 1986. So I pretty much grew up. Most of my adult experience started here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of
So
brought me here.
how was it coming here from Jamaica?
How was it coming here?
Yeah, like
You mean
what?
like the
What
plane
were some
ride?
challenges that you like? What were some challenges and some things that you noticed, or like what was your experience like? Like let's say like the first like few years that you were here, like what was that like?
Well, for me, it was very different because my mom lived here since I was 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up in Jamaica, I actually went to boarding school. And after some experience at that one boarding school, I ended up going to another school. And I pretty much lived on my own for the last 2 years of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me was always in the back of my head because it was a decision that was made that I would finish high school. And the minute I graduated high school, I would be in Boston with my mother. So I graduated high school, and the next day I was on the flight to
So
Boston.
did you feel like a culture shock or what?
No, not at all.
Really?
No, culture.
Why?
Well, okay, let me take that back. Culture shock. And I would have to go back a little bit because for me, the shock was more the weather. Because I left the tropical island,
Yeah.
and in frigid Massachusetts, I mean, during the winter, it was brutal.
Yeah.
And that for me, and you've never lived in winter climate. And one of the things that you do when you're living in a winter climate is that people stay indoors. You
Mhm.
don't go out unless you have a reason to go somewhere. And I graduated high school. I was about to start community college, and I didn't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from when my mom went to work, I'd go to the bar around the corner. Because coming from Jamaica, I was a grown kid.
Yeah.
Even though I was a kid, I was a grown man. You know, we lived a different lifestyle where we drank, we did all kinds of adult things at 17 years old. So moving to Boston or Lynn, Mass, I was able to just go into around the corner bar where I lived and just sat there and drank.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say drink, maybe have a beer, watch
Yeah.
sports, and then go back home because my mom was a nurse, or at the time.
But even like the sports, like were you like, because I know the same sports in Jamaica are not as popular like here, or well, no, the opposite. Like, what was baseball and like all the like American football that wasn't popular in Jamaica, was it?
No, we didn't. We had access to it because
Yeah.
Jamaica, again,
No, I know, but I'm just
we had
talking about
satellite
popularity.
dishes every
Yeah.
home, and we got pretty much the American culture
Mhm.
was adopted anywhere around the world where you had a satellite dish.
Yeah.
However, Jamaican culture, we were a strong soccer-driven culture. So it was always about European soccer,
Mm-hmm.
soccer on the island, and it was always about, cricket was another thing that played. Baseball, no, we didn't have baseball, and the island people weren't interested in baseball. But for the most part, when you grew up in Jamaica, people didn't spend a lot of time watching sports.
Yeah.
at home like we do here.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't consume sports the way we do in America because it's a small island and there's so much to do and you spend more time outdoors. But for the most part, like television show was a big thing that we watched, like
Mm-hmm.
Miami Vice, all those kind of shows or stuff like that. Events is stuff that Jamaicans would watch on
Mm-hmm.
television. But for the most part, just going home because you want to go catch a weekly, because we didn't have it structured like that
Yeah.
when I was there. We didn't have sports that were so structured where it was every Thursday night, every Saturday, every Sunday. No, we didn't have that.
Did you make friends like easily when you came to Boston or not really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, growing up,
But like I'm saying, like, did you feel like that? Like, oh wow, like these. Did you relate to people here like right away?
I laugh. And the reason why I laugh is because where I grew up in Jamaica,
Oh
I
yeah, I
went to
guess
boarding
because
school.
everybody was all
I
from all over
went
the
people
place.
from all over
Yeah.
the place that we went to school.
Yeah. Okay.
Or
Well, you're a bad example because you're different, like than like my mom's experience. But okay. And then now, like, well, not now, but a little bit after you came here, right? How was your whole traveling, Mr. Worldwide stint of seeing the world and everything like that, and experiencing all those other different cultures and stuff when you were doing like the catalog and like all that stuff? Like, what was that like?
traveling started more from work
Yeah.
when I started modeling back in the 90s
Mm-hmm.
and started getting opportunity to go all over the place. And let me take that back because traveling started a lot earlier than that for me because traveling for me started with girlfriends. I remember my girlfriend or my first wife was from
Mm-hmm.
Canada. And so I met her down here in Florida and we had a long distance relationship where I would go up to Toronto for like 2 weeks a week.
Mm-hmm.
She would come down. So I started that kind of traveling earlier on, just based purely on girlfriends that I knew or had. And, I would travel a lot around, like from Florida to New York, places like that. We drove from Florida to New York.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things I would explore different. And then I had another girlfriend who was a travel agent. And so we would take cruises or would just do short trips.
Mm-hmm.
So that started my whole travel experience earlier on. But
Mm-hmm.
then when I started modeling, that just went on steroids.
Yeah.
So I ended up traveling all over the world.
So,
And again, after that, during that,
mm-hmm.
other girlfriends because for some reason, I dated a lot of women that were from Europe.
Dated around the world.
There were a lot of Europeans.
Yeah.
And so I would, go to different
Mhm.
places or even ladies or girls that I was dated here that I was dating at the time
Mhm.
would travel to Europe.
I see.
And the other thing is that people that I worked with, whether it was a producer, like whenever I did catalog, I did this particular catalog that I did for a very long time. The producer, organizer, marketer, he became a really good friend of mine. And so, he was a German guy and
Mhm.
he always said, Mark, you have to come to Germany and we show you how we party. Because he would come to South Beach and I was like, hey, I got to take you out.
Yeah.
Would shoot catalog on South Beach. And I was like, yo, bro, we got to take you to all the hot spots. And would go out and have fun. And then he'd look at me and go, you have to come to Germany and we show you how we party. And so we ended up flying to Germany and flying to Amsterdam. He met me in Amsterdam. We drove back to Cologne, Germany. And one year because he always vacationed in Ibiza. So we ended up going to Ibiza and just hanging out.
I
And
thought it's pronounced Ibiza.
well, yeah, if you're from Spain, Ibiza. But, we call it Ibiza.
Okay. So how did that experience or all of those many experiences, like, did you feel a change and from when you just came here from Jamaica, like, even though you were surrounded by all different cultures, I mean, like actually going and experiencing those cultures, did you like notice like a change in yourself? Like, oh wow, the world is so big. Like, because I felt that way when you've taken me places and stuff.
No, I knew the world was a really big place from just being in Jamaica. Because you understand things about Jamaicans. We're nomads. We go all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you meet a Jamaican, I was in Prague in this alleyway because in Prague they have these little streets, cobblestone streets going up.
Okay.
The castle, and there's a Jamaican, dreadlocks with his red, green, and gold, just there.
Mm-hmm.
I was in, I forgot. I was in Budapest.
There's a Jamaican
going around, and I smelled this weed smell. I'm like, what the hell is that? Turned out, this Jamaican dude in a record shop, and it was a Jamaican dude smoking weed. So for a small island that I grew up,
y'all get around.
We're nomads. We go all over the world. So I was very much aware of how small the world is, so to speak, because everything was interconnected because people from my island went everywhere.
So it didn't change, is what you're saying. Like, you're kind of like, yeah, this makes sense. Like, you're like.
Well, I always had the desire to go and see different places. And that's a part of the whole curiosity thing with me. I've always wanted to see different places because I met so many people from different places. And I was always so inquisitive to ask them about where they lived, where they came from, how was it. And people talk to me more about their culture and things. And, oh, you got to come see this.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I was always very curious about if I ever got a chance, I would want to go see this and want to go see that. And so when the opportunity, because obviously traveling, it's an expensive proposition. And so you really have to have the resources to be able to do that. And so when I was able to start working in the modeling and obviously getting booked on jobs to go overseas and I did multiple cruises and I'd go to Mexico all over just to do catalog or just to do jobs. And so it's always best to see the world on someone else's dime and while you're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
So that sparked another level of just curiosity of being able to go to places, work, and consume other culture.
And then, so before I talk about like my perspective a little bit, I'll just say my mom is from Slovakia and she came here when she was 19 as a au pair, I guess you would say, right? Isn't that what it's called, an au pair? So she came here to go to school and she ended up staying here, meeting my dad, had me and all that stuff. So my mom is very much a Slovak woman, but she's been here for a long time. So kind of similar to you. And so I want to ask you, since you've had relations with women from all around the world, like how has that been? Like, do you notice you must notice like cultural different, like there's just like my mom will say like, oh, just culturally, like I'm different than this person. Like when she speaks about like interacting and stuff. So when you're so closely connected with someone and interacting with them constantly, like how was that like being with a woman from Eastern Europe and then a woman from Scandinavia and a woman from like Canada? Like, did you notice, like, how did that shape kind of like the way that you think or like the way that you interacted with them?
I mean, I don't think it did.
Really?
For the most part, because, living in Florida was always, I met more women from all over the world here in Florida than anywhere else. And because Florida was such a transient place, especially South Beach. And when, we grew up in that whole era where South Beach got put on the map with the modeling industry and the clubs, the nightlife and all of that. So meeting, we used to go to South Beach from like Thursday night till Monday night. Okay. So Thursday, there's an event, then you go Friday and then Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday you have Fat Black, P-Cat. We don't want to curse, but that was the name of the joint on a Monday night. So we would meet people from all over the world. And so that was just normal for us. That was the norm. So relating to people from all over the world, it was just a
like
regular
whatever.
thing on South Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And even meeting women from different states.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you meet a girl from Alabama, you meet a girl from Ohio, you meet someone from New York.
Yeah.
But that was just the whole mix, and they were all different.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, you know, it's nothing, it was never a monolithic culture, so to speak. It was just a diversity, a mixture of all these different people from all over the place just coming here with one common goal, and that was just to have fun.
Mm-hmm. And
When I say there's a diversity,
mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about Florida in general.
You're
I'm
talking about
speaking more,
South Beach
yeah,
specifically.
South Beach or
So yeah.
South
So
Florida
I'm saying like when
specifically.
you knew you're going to have me, like what was that? Like did it cross your mind or not really? Because you've said like when you knew I was going to be like mixed race, obviously like that's something that you thought about was like the cultural like mix of cultures and like immigration thing, like a thought or not really?
No, and again, the whole idea of, you know, I know in earlier podcast episodes we talked about my whole thing with you that you existed before you were born,
Mm-hmm.
because the idea of you existed long before I met your mom, because there were different, relationships that I've had where, it was an idea of having a child, and it was, I wanted a girl, and the girl
But
was
do you
going to
think
be
I
Madison.
would have turned out differently if like my mom would have been from like somewhere else or not really?
Well, of course,
Yeah.
that goes
So
without
that's what
saying.
I'm saying. Like, were
But
you like, wow, like my daughter's gonna be like half Slovakian or whatever?
no, I mean, Slovakian, you don't get up and go, oh, I want to have Slovakian daughter.
Gosh,
No,
I mean, it wasn't like wow. I'm not saying it's about wow. I mean, it's more like was that something that you thought of like because okay, granted, like I don't know the language anymore, and I've been there a good amount of times, but like you didn't know that was going to happen necessarily, right? Didn't you didn't you think I was going to like grow up bilingual, maybe, probably?
to be honest with you, Slovakia was never even on the map as far as my consciousness of saying, oh, that's a country. Because again, your brother, his mom is from Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. She's Canadian. I've had girlfriends from Sweden and girlfriends from all over.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never,
I'm
my
not saying
ex
as
was
far as
Hispanic.
picking, I'm saying more of like.
No, I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but it was never even, Slovakia is never a thing that you'd think that, because most people don't even know what that is. I would never even encountered anyone from Slovakia before for it to even register to be like, oh, it was just about your mom.
Yeah.
And it was just, she was just like a unicorn to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was never about where she was from. It was never about her culture, because your mom, I never really experienced Slovakian culture with your mom. Only time I even encountered the culture was like when she gets on the phone with her mom and they start speaking while I was around,
Yeah.
and they're on speaker, and I was like, oh, okay. But outside of that, your mom was just an American with an accent.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, no. Again, did I ever want her or even expected her to teach her the language? Yes. But how useful it would have been? I mean, it would have been great for you, but how would it impact your life in American society?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. If you were Italian,
Mm-hmm.
if your mom was from Italy and or Hispanic, where you're like, oh, that's a language
You're
that's
gonna offend all the
celebrated.
Eastern Europeans.
No. And again, Slovakia, they're very, like trumpets, they're very nice people. But I don't mean it as if they're not, but I'm saying their culture here in America and the exposure to that culture is not something that is so pronounced where it would impact you per se or me to go, oh, like if you were an Italian and you're sitting there talking Italian, or if you were Hispanic from Spain or something like that, you're speaking, it becomes so useful in your everyday life that it would impact you. Like your mom is Slovakian, and very rarely does she even speak Slovakian unless she's talking to her parents.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of them here, or the impact, the footprint of their culture is not that significant here in America for it to be impactful. That's what I kind of meant.
Do you think that you're not, I don't want to say culturedness because that's not really a word, but do you think you're like well-traveledness and your like exposure to cultures has given you like, what has it given you? Even though you've never known anything different growing up in Jamaica, like, do you think it makes you like a more like understanding empathetic, smart, whatever individual, like what has it done for you, or what has
It's
it brought you?
short answer, perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I don't want you to sleep, and I have to go back and reinforce the point that I made earlier. Do not sleep on Jamaicans.
Yeah.
But coming from Jamaica, those are things that we were born into, that awareness. Because again, on our island, we are so integrated with people from all over the world that lives there, come there, have kids there, go to school there. So I was always entrenched somewhat into multicultural
Yeah.
experience before I even came to the United
I
States.
know.
So coming here, it was just another place just to anchor because my parents live here. But, Jamaicans, I have friends who go to China for a month,
Yeah.
and they go all over. They go to Cuba. They go all over the world, and they come there, and there's just a whole melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
So culturally, for me, as far as that is concerned, the psychological part of it was already so entrenched.
Yeah, but
in
I
me
mean, like
from
if
that point.
someone like I would say that I've grown up in a like diverse like community in South Florida, meeting people from all different corners of the world. But I can still speak on like how that has like what that has done for me.
Yeah,
Like, so
rightfully
that's what I
so.
mean.
And that's
Like, what
why I
has it
said
done
to you,
for you?
and that's one of the things that I would say is perspective,
Yeah.
because it teaches me so many different exposure to culture, to realize one, how fortunate I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this to you many times, that the most powerful document that one could ever have is the American passport, because the American passport will give you entry to any and every country. The only country that we do not have access to is because our own government prohibit us from going there, not that they prohibit us from coming. So,
well, now we have to get approval to go to like certain like in
no,
Europe.
some country you require a visa,
Yeah.
but once you have an American passport, it's almost automatic
Yeah.
that you get approved to go. Like when I went to China, you had to get a visa stamped into your passport, but it was just a procedural thing. It wasn't like, and this came home to me, or for me, in a very specific way. I remember we're on the train going from Prague to Budapest. And, when you buy your ticket, you already boarded the train and you're sitting on the train, and then there's a conductor or a cop or border patrol will come walking through the train, ask you for your ticket, and you have to show your documents. And for us, and, the person I was traveling with, we just sat there and it was like, okay, they looked at us and we were good.
Yeah.
And for another passenger, she was Hispanic, and she had I think a Mexican or some Latin country passport, and she didn't have the required visa to go into Hungary from Prague, and they escorted her off the train at the next station. And for us, all we had to do was just show our blue passport. We didn't have any visa or anything. It wasn't required for an American to have that. And so from that vantage point and from that perspective, I've learned that the most powerful document one could have is not even your birth certificate.
Yeah.
It's the American passport.
So has that tied into how you've raised me? Like, and how has it tied in? Like,
yes.
So
absolutely.
talk about that then.
The imagination is a wonderful thing. You could imagine, and you could expose yourself in books. You could expose yourself through movies, or with go to library or exhibits of different culture, different places. Those are all informed experiences, but there's nothing like a tangible experience of breathing the air, touching the soil of another country. And so, as much as I encouraged you to read, encourage you to get lost in literature and lost in, the creative arts, was also important for me for you to go and visit and see how these people live, visit their culture, their architecture, just to go to their city, experiencing their the things that make them who they are, how they entertain you, how do they, their cultural exposure to you, how they embrace you, their cuisine, all those things that were very important to me. So yes, so putting you on a flight, taking you to different countries was very much important to just to ex, extend your horizon, so to speak, so you understand and see things and you're not just living in this like most families, they go to Bahamas or they go on a cruise. But you're just encountering the same culture that you do in South Florida.
And I think like first I'll say a little from Pocahontas. There's a song and she says like, oh, you think the only people who are people who look and think like you. But like, and basically the song is just about like, if you walk in the footsteps of a stranger, like you'll realize like there's so many things that exist that you never knew.
Yeah, you go back to the great Malcolm X. I mean, you know, he was indoctrinated into the Nation of Islam, and for a very long time, you know, the way he thought about white people and the way he thought about Islam was limited to his American experience until he took the pilgrimage in Mecca and understand and experienced white, you know, Muslims and Muslims from all over the world. He was able to come back with a different perspective than the one that he held for many years.
Yeah. And I think like you guys being from two different places that like most of the time when I tell people, oh, like my dad's from Jamaica and my mom's from Slovakia, they're like, what? Like, it's just two very different, like, like what
how
did
them two ever ran into each other?
Yeah. So, and I think that it's like shaped how I go about and like my empathy, like for a lot of people, and just lack of understanding and lack of empathy that I've never struggled with that, because it's always been like, I know my mom still asks me if of is with 2 F's or 1 F or whatever. Like,
but that in itself is a language thing.
I know, but I'm talking about, that's what I'm saying. Like, when like the language, like the humor, like all these little things that like are so nuanced in a culture. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just like realized that
you use the word empathy, and that
so empathy. I don't know.
But why empathy? Empathy elicit a reaction as if there's something
that I feel bad. I'm saying more like understanding that like they're not different than me, and also understanding how difficult it is. Like,
also, you're talking more of acceptance.
Yeah, acceptance, I guess. Acceptance, and also be like realizing, like, because I always say, oh my gosh, like I don't know if I could ever like immigrate somewhere, because I feel like it's like watching like my mom, and not so much you, because like as you said, like you grew up so whatever, entrenched in all these different cultures, but I know that it's not easy, like for my mom, like it wasn't easy like then, and it's still like certain things are difficult.
You know, your mom.
Plus, my mom did everything like by herself,
and she was very young when she
came
did that.
here. Like, and okay, your mom was already here, but like my mom has no family here or anything. Like everything was just, it was just this strange place where she didn't know anybody and like all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like,
but for your mom, it was a mission for her. She wanted to come here to pursue whatever she wanted to pursue. For me, it was like, it was compulsory. I had no choice.
So I'm saying like, that like appreciation for like people who like who do that, like who can do that. Like so many people do that. You know what I mean?
But I think
like
the world has changed though. The world has changed from with internet and technology, and the world is truly connected.
Yeah.
And cultures now are so connected, and connected in a way where I don't have to go to Mongolia to know what the Mongolians are like.
Yeah.
I have to go there to experience what they're like. But knowledge, I could always tap into the internet and research and have access to their culture that is curated for me to have access to. So I'm saying the world is so much different from when your mom came here, because if your mom were living in Slovakia today, she could easily be embedded in American culture virtually and know the nuance of where to go, where to live, what's happening, what's Florida like,
Yeah.
as opposed to when she came here blindly.
About like accepting people, like would you agree that there's a good amount of people even in the diverse area that we are that it's just like, oh, but those strange cultures, like that's strange, like, and not wanting to like like they're happy like where they are and they would be happy to never like go outside of their comfort zone, really.
I've said to
Yeah.
people many times over the years that Florida is the most isolated, diverse place that you could ever get into. Because again, if you look at the structure of Florida, especially South Florida is a melting pot of all these different cultures.
Yeah.
But the difference is all these cultures, they find their own little enclave. And they're segregated within an integrated cultural geography. Like you have the Cubans, they're in the Cuban neighborhood. You have the Haitians, they congregate or they live or domicile in their own community. You look at the Jamaicans, they domicile and they live in their own little enclave. And it's the same thing, the Argentinians, and you have all these little enclaves of all these different cultures migrated here and they just assimilated into their, and again, it's almost an oxymoron, you don't assimilate into your own culture.
Yeah.
They just come and they entrench themselves in their own culture. The difference between places like a major metropolis like New York or places that have true downtown areas and true public transportation where people would leave their boroughs that they live, their community, and have to go and work. So you leave your boroughs, whether it's your little enclave of Italians, and you go and you work, whether it's in Manhattan or whether it's in all these different boroughs that they go, or you get on the public transportation, you're interacting with different culture, with different people. Here, we have a driving culture. We don't have public transportation. My whole PR marketing firm, we were required. We read this book by Richard Florida that talked about white flight, and a part of the whole idea of white flight back then were people were leaving the inner city to go set up the suburbs because they wanted to move out of the inner city that was becoming so integrated. And so they'd move and start setting up these communities, gated communities out in the suburbs. And then what follows? They didn't want to migrate or they didn't want to commute back to the city, inner city, to get groceries or to get supplies. So what? They'll develop their own little strip malls out in the enclave, in the suburbs. So they'll have their own Publix. They'll have all the things that they had in the inner city would follow them out to the suburbs. And what that served as is that you weren't forced to leave your cushy gated community. You just go right around the corner into the strip malls and you'll have your little Publix and you have your Starbucks and you have your barbershop, your beauty salon, and you have a Home Depot would follow you out there. So these people just never need to leave their communities to integrate or to interact with other culture. And so that's one of the things that you find about South Florida. And so that's where you don't have diversity that you truly would have. But when you take a sky-high view and look at South Florida, you'd be thinking, well, wow, that's such a diverse, when you look at the census, there's all these different, nationalities that are there, but they're not all interacting with each other.
Last question, I guess, is have you ever been treated differently as well, now I feel like you're very like incognito with your Jamaicanness, but I mean, like when you first got here, like did you like feel like you felt like you connected with people, but did you ever feel like people weren't accepting of yours and stuff like that, or not really?
I have to say, Jamaica has this unique thing. And again, historically, Jamaican have always been perceived as this little unique culture that everyone wants a piece of, it was always celebrated in many different ways. So when you think of different cultures that people look down on or might make fun of, Jamaicans were never one of those, because for a small island where we come from,
Or even when people like imitate the accent, it's more of like a fun thing because
Yeah,
they
because it was
like it.
associated with
Yeah.
weed, or it was associated with Amon,
Yeah.
or it was always associated with some sliver of celebratory cultural
Hmm.
experience for or from Americans, or whatever that culture or
Yeah.
country you were in, that went there and had an experience. So
Hmm.
it was never to look down on it. It was just more from a position of admiring their culture. So for us, we've just, I like to tell people we punch way above our weight for such a
Yeah.
small island, because whether it was Bob Marley, or whether
Hmm.
it's, you know, Usain Bolt, or whether it was, when I was coming up, it was Donald Quarry. He was one of the first Jamaicans to win the 100 meter in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Or it was always, we've just always had some giants on a national stage from such a
Hmm.
small country.
Yeah.
And you could go back to Marcus Garvey. I mean, that had such an impact on Black culture, or Black history, or Black experience in America. So my culture and my country was always and is always celebrated in a way where there's always a sliver of experience that someone have, that they always try to hold on to it. Whether you're
Hmm.
from any other culture, you look at Jamaicans like, hey man, because there's always something that's so recognizable and relatable
Hmm.
about our culture. So no, I was never made fun of. Um, there's times in the industry
Hmm.
that, again, a lot of who I am today was sculpted by the industry in which I worked. Because yes, there were times where your accent became an obstacle,
Yeah.
because they would specifically require or recast, and it would state no accent,
Hmm.
or a neutral accent, or an American accent. And so these are things that back in the training process, or training period of acting and going to classes and working
Hmm.
on dialogues, and working on not just dialogue, but what we're talking about, dialect,
Yeah.
or just accents and stuff like that. We had to work and put the work in terms of being able to come across neutral from time to time,
Hmm.
or tap into that culture when you needed to. And so I was able to practice my craft in a way where you put the work in where I could sound Jamaican if I wanted to. And then there's times where I would just be relaxed and my accent will pop out. And then there's times when I can be deliberate in terms of how I sound.
Hmm.
But there was just, a part of the whole training and going through the process of being able to be successful in that industry and work at it.
And speaking like as someone who came from a different culture and who has lived here for so long, like, do you still feel like connected to where you came from, like very much so, or do you claim where you've lived longer more?
There's a dichotomy with that question, because I had to separate myself from my culture for my existence in order
Hmm.
to exist. And I say that, and people might look at it and go, "Whoa, that's a strong statement."
Hmm.
But the way I came up, and with the people that I came up, and when I say came up, I meant in street
Yeah.
vernacular of people who I grew up with, of people that I ran the street with when I was a youngster. If I didn't separate myself from that part of my culture or my heritage,
Hmm.
I don't think I would be alive today, or I'd probably be in jail somewhere.
Yeah.
Only because the elements, and when I say element, it has such a negative connotation because it's not an element, because I was a part of that. That
Yeah.
was me. But the things that we did as a teenager and in my early 20s, and the people that I ran with, if I didn't separate myself from it, I
Hmm.
don't think I would be able to be sitting here having the conversations that I have with you. It was very
There's just
difficult for
parts
me
of it
because I
though.
had to
Yeah.
transition out of it in
Hmm.
order to survive. Because if I didn't, I don't think I would be able to survive.
Hmm.
However, the older I got and the more distance that I have are established between my culture and my identity and who I am and my survival,
Hmm.
the longer that became, the more hunger I had for it. So I'm able to tap in and tap out, meaning I could go and plug in at any given time and see people that I grew up with, or people I knew from back in the days, or people who I somewhat were friendly or still friends with. I can tap in at an event and talk and hang out and do my thing, but then go back to the world where I have established, whether it's with you, my family, and the things that were important or are still important to me in order to protect. Because yeah, it was a very volatile experience for me growing up in that culture, coming here. And again, it's self-inflicted. Nobody, imposed
But
it
would
on
you
me.
say that's like Jamaican culture? No, not
No,
really. Like you're
no,
specific.
absolutely.
Like what do
No.
you mean by that culture? Like you're talking just like yeah, because I'm asking like, do you feel connected to your culture? I was talking about Jamaica, then you got into your whole like.
Because you can't separate one from
Yeah,
the other.
I guess.
Because the life that I live
Mm-hmm.
was a part, or the life that I was living at the time. You couldn't separate my culture
Yeah.
from my identity,
Mm-hmm.
because I was in that culture, in that life, as a part of an element of my culture, in that community. And maybe community is a much more appropriate word,
Yeah.
because culture could spread in all different communities.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could have still lived in my community that I'm currently living with you and still have a very strong Jamaican culture.
Do you feel like you have a strong Jamaican culture or not really though?
Is it something that I invoke, or is it something that I practice? No. But what I am saying is, in order for my own survival, I had to pull myself away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say pull myself away from it, I'm not just talking about just not eating Jamaican food, or not going to Jamaican dance, or not talking Jamaican. I'm talking about actually staying away from people who could identify who I am, what I am, who I was, what I was, and just created a whole new persona for who I am and who I became. Because any ties to that community could always lead back to some form of confrontation based on where I was and what I was trying to run away from.
What you just said kind of made me think like I think a lot of, actually I'll let you answer this because you have more experience in life than me, but I think a lot of like immigrants that I've heard like speak to me, like my mom and like you, like talk about that almost like reinventing yourself, like because you have like this opportunity kind of to like come here and like be who you want. Like do you understand what I'm kind of going with?
And I've always said America is the great equalizer, because it doesn't matter where you came from, what you came with.
Mm-hmm.
You always have the ability to become what you want and who you want to become.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, and I've seen this from my own country, where people who were very established from where I came from, and they came here and they all start from the same place that I started.
Yeah.
Because whatever you had and whoever you were in that country or culture or community, it doesn't mean anything here. You have to establish new roots, and you always start from zero. And so being the great equalizer, what I meant by that is that this is the country that offers so many different opportunities for you to become what you want to become. Mm-hmm. And there are very limited gatekeepers to prohibit you from becoming what you want to become, just as long as you have the right discipline and you have the right commitment. You can always become what you want to become, because again, it's an open society.
Yeah.
Very few gatekeepers. It's not like, where even the country that I came from, we have what's considered, we don't have racism, we have classism.
Yeah.
And with classism come gatekeepers,
mm-hmm.
people who allow you opportunity and people who prevent you from getting to where you need to get to. Or it's about who you know versus what you're capable of. And in American society, it's very different. It doesn't matter. Do you have, are you smart? You have the ingenuity, you have the skill sets. Are you willing to learn? Are you, how adaptable are you? I mean, are you marketable? Are you
Mm-hmm.
making yourself marketable? Are you educated? How are you? So, all these different things, you have all the tools or access to those tools to accomplish the requirements that's needed for success
Mm-hmm.
without gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
In a classes system, you have gatekeepers that prevent you from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, when someone say reinvent themselves, mm, I
Maybe
guess
not. Or yeah. Well, what were you gonna say?
it's not a matter of reinventing yourself because what were you before?
Yeah. Just inventing yourself, I
Yeah,
guess.
or giving yourself
Without,
the
yeah.
opportunity to become what you want to become. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, and the good thing about this country, and the great thing about this country, and that's why one of the reasons why I love this country, it is it offers you things that you never imagined that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
or it offers you opportunity that you didn't even conceive of.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say conceive of, it doesn't necessarily mean to go back to limiting yourself, is limiting your imagination, is limited. It just means that there might be things that you never even imagined because it was not necessarily on your scope. Like for you, we've had this conversation about, your brother's successful in the media. He's a community reporter or was. I spent the last close to 30 years in show business doing modeling and TV and then all that. So for you, the idea of, oh, I could become an actor, an actress, or I could become a reporter or something like that, it's not that far fetched. It's not something that you got to sit there and go, I don't know if that's possible for me. You know it is. It's just a matter of do I want that for me? No, I want to take a different path. But it's not so far fetched. Coming from where I came from, if someone even mentioned that to me, I would laugh because it's not even a part. You don't know anyone who ever did it, or anyone who ever in your surroundings, or even in your community, or even in your stratosphere who have done it. So for us, it was like, okay, that might be a little far fetched.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even on your radar. But being a lawyer, doctor, or any one of those, career path was, it could be a lawyer, it could be a doctor, because, people who've came through the ranks or came from our community who have done that. So that's kind of what I mean by, you know, this country gives you opportunity that you never even conceived of. But now it becomes a part of your reality because you can relate, people who've seen it, who've done it. You could easily tap into me or your brother and say, how did you do this? Or you'll see it in real time because you've been exposed to it. So it's not a matter of, but for some other kid who's never been in that situation, you tell them you can be a model, you tell them you can be an actor or something like, they're like, well, okay, whatever. I only saw that stuff on television. So that's the beauty of what I'm talking about in America. It gives you that opportunity to conceive things that you never even thought conceivable. Just to flip the script on you, coming from a family or an immigrant family, what impact did that have on you? And at what point in your collective thinking did you have that epiphany or that moment where you're like, I'm different? Because, my friend, their mom and dad is from Alabama or from Wisconsin or from New York. Huh. My mom is from Slovakia.
Yeah.
And my dad is from Jamaica. Granted, I've never been there in Jamaica just yet, but you will in time. But when did that happen for you?
I feel like since like forever, because my mom is so like, my mom's accent is so like prominent that people always, like, even when I was like in preschool, like you could always tell that my mom was like from somewhere else. And then people ask me like questions like, oh, where's your mom from? And my mom constantly gets asked where she's from because people are curious because my mom sounds different. So I always kind of realized that. And then just because there's a lot of, I grew up with like, okay, yeah, immigrant kids, but they were, I guess, more common immigrants here. Like you said, there's not like
It's a common immigrant.
you said there's not, like you said earlier, like there's not a huge Slovak population in
You mean
versus
immigrant
like
from other more
yeah, like
popular
versus
countries.
like my friends who may have been from Mexico or Haiti who have like so many kids around them who are from there. Like the closest most like the closest people that I guess you could say like I kind of relate to like would be my friends whose parents are from like I think like well Poland I would say was the closest, but I don't even know anyone whose parents are from Poland. I know kids whose parents are from like Ukraine or Russia, and like that was about it. Like the closest that I guess you could say, which they're very different because people always are like, oh, like Russia, and I'm like, well, not really, but
So does that
okay.
make you an anomaly because your dad is and your mom is from
Yeah,
diametrically
like
opposed?
diametrically opposed. Because I know like a good amount of kids who their parents are from Jamaica or whatever. Like that's not that crazy. But like Slovakia, like people are like, where is that even? Like where is that? Like nobody knows where that is. Like, and I'm just like, bruh, like it's well, like some people do, but you know. So I kind of realized, and like I said earlier, like with the whole like realizing that people are people like no matter where they're from kind of thing, like just because somebody doesn't sound like me or like
Yeah,
doesn't
but I think, and again, you keep the way you say that, it has a connotation as if it's not something that's celebrated, and I think it's something
I
that to be celebrated.
it's
Again,
celebrated by some people, but I think by a lot of people it isn't. Like
and I
growing
think
up I feel like people were kind of like
and I think that might just
me.
be your generation. But the older you guys get, now that you're going off to college in the next year, you're going to find that you're in on a campus with people from all over the world,
Yeah, but
and
I've
people
heard
are
my
just
mom tell me that people like perceive her differently because as soon as she opens her mouth, you know that she's from somewhere else, and it's like
that is true. That a lot of times, based on your accent,
mhm.
people might find you less credible.
Not even just that, but
And
also
when I say
yeah,
less credible, it's a misconception because you have an accent. Some people might think, you're not intelligent or you're not this or you're not that because they don't know,
hmm
as opposed to it's more otherized.
yeah, like that's what I'm saying that people are not like I think I have experienced a lot of other like oh they're different because they speak differently or whatever like the other thing which I've never like been
That
like
who's
that.
different? That you're different, or
No, that like I've been around kids like that I'm around and they hear someone with an accent or a teacher has an accent or someone's parent has an accent or instructor whatever and they're like oh like I don't understand anything they're saying like
yeah,
and it's
but
like this kind of like and it's like where's your mom from like freaking Kansas
yeah,
like that's
but
probably why you think like that like
but I have to say, but it's children, it's kids. We did
yeah
the same thing when we were kids, but once you become an adult, those I mean, it's just like making fun of a kid with slanted eyes or what do you call those cross-eyed kids in high school. But when you become an adult, you have a different outlook. You treat people different. Those things no longer make
but I'm saying
sense.
I never had a period of time where I treated people like weird or anything because I've skipped that whole phase of like
But you
that.
wouldn't.
What do you mean?
I mean, why would you treat anybody different? You are from that whole diaspora.
That's what I'm saying. That's
So
what
no,
I'm
I'm
saying.
saying,
So
but
that's
I'm
what I'm
speaking
saying
of
that
the people
I
who actually would make those comments.
yeah.
That it's a childish thing. I mean, I went to school with kids who did the same, and I'm sure I probably did the same thing
Yeah.
because I was just a stupid child or a kid that
hmm
do stupid, dumb things.
Kids in America, I think, don't like wake up like until like college, and I've been awake all this time because like that's how what
But
I've
that is
been
to be
around.
expected because it's a
But it's
part
not
of
that I'm
that.
not trying to say that it shouldn't be expected or not.
Okay,
I'm just
okay.
saying that that's my experience that I
Oh,
can't
okay.
relate to that because I've been that's how having you guys as parents has affected me because it's just like
And most, if not all, immigrant kids would probably have the same experience,
yeah.
or apart from those who are in denial of, or just want to be white and
hmm
want to sound white, then they will be somewhat different.
oh, and your food is stinky or whatever. Like you bring food from, you've talked to like immigrant, like you did like listen to immigrant, like first gen kids, and they'll say like, oh yeah, like you're from like China or something. Their mom packs them like a traditional lunch, and the white kids are like with their peanut butter jelly, like, what are you eating? That smells bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that, like
And
little
that's,
things
yeah,
like,
and
oh,
that's
you look
ignorance.
different. You like your
Yeah, and
food
that's
is
a level of
weird.
ignorance, but at the same time, those are the same people who, with their parents,
Yeah.
go to like the Indian restaurant and standing, a
Well, maybe like
3 hour
Panda Express or
reservation.
something.
No, these are the same people that go to like the Vietnamese restaurant and spend like, 15 minutes just waiting to get seated because they
Yeah.
want the experience.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the
Yeah,
child.
maybe when they're older, but it's like,
No, I'm saying
oh,
those
weird.
kids, their parents will say, "Oh, you want to have Vietnamese food? Sure. You want to have Thai food? Sure." But they go to these restaurants and they spend 15 minutes just to get seated because they want the experience, or they go to this curry-smelling Thai Indian restaurant because they want, I want that curry. But at the same time, these kids come from the same family who just wants to go to these different restaurants to experience cuisine.
Like I remember like one like a canon like immigrant child like event is everyone around you eating Lunchables and you being jealous at them for literally no reason. Like, oh, I remember I used to tell you like I want to have a Lunchable, like I want to try Lunchables because all these kids had Lunchables. Why would I try Lunchables? Like I had you guys cooked like great food for me, but I'm saying because I see what everyone with their Lunchables and their Uncrustables from their like white families, and then I get Lunchables one time and I was ill.
It's not
Like
about
from
white families; it's
Lunchables.
about American family.
I guess
'Cause
American
Black people have
family.
Lunchables too,
I
and
mean,
Hispanic people have
maybe I
Lunchables.
suppose.
It's just the
A
Publix
lot
or
of
the easy thing.
Most of the Hispanic kids I know, they have some like gourmet like
Depending on
lunches.
if they're first or second generation.
Well, I mean, but we're talking about first gen kids.
Oh, okay.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay, sure. First gen kids typically have good food
Yeah.
because their parents give
Because
them
their
leftovers
food
from
gives them
dinners.
good food. But then you get like judged, and then you're also kind of like, oh, mom, why can't you just give me Lunchables and a peanut butter jelly sandwich like
Because
everybody
everyone's
else?
making fun of my food
Yeah,
when I
or
reheat
because
it.
like you just want to be like everyone else, and it's
Yeah.
like no, sweetie.
It's just growing pains, mommy. It's just growing pains.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm thankful for it now, but I'm just saying like it's a thing.
Well, with that, I think we have accomplished another milestones talking about culture and heritage. And I look forward to doing this again with you. Any
Yeah.
closing statements?
No.
Okay. As always, see you on the next one.